You're doing the meditations. You're saying the affirmations. You're visualizing the life you want again and again, and yet something still feels off. Like you're reaching for a door that keeps disappearing the moment you touch it. Like you're close, so close, but reality just won't bend the way you know it should. And maybe deep down, a question has begun to ache. What am I missing? It's not your fault. You've been taught to do, to fix, to chase, to try harder when things don't shift. But manifestation doesn't respond to pressure. It responds to presence. And the truth is, you might be missing the one quantum shift that doesn't happen in the mind at all, but in the body, in the field, in the quiet way your nervous system says, I'm safe now. You see, reality doesn't respond to what you think you want. It reflects what you are. The subconscious programs you carry, old fears, tiny tensions, unspoken doubts, they broadcast far louder than your intentions. They're not bad. They're just unintegrated. And when you live in that subtle static, no matter how beautiful your vision board is, the signal never truly lands, because the field around you isn't coherent. It's cluttered with contradiction. This is the shift most people miss, the embodiment of the energy before the evidence, feeling the frequency now, even when life looks the same, becoming the version of you who doesn't need proof to believe. That's the quantum jump, not thinking differently, being differently, not from force but from frequency. Think about it. The most potent manifestations often happen not when we grip tighter, but when we finally let go, when the waiting turns to surrender, when we stop asking when and start being now. There's a moment, sometimes quiet, sometimes electric, where you stop trying to manipulate the mirror and instead become the reflection. That's when timelines collapse. That's when openings appear. Not because the universe suddenly decided to bless you, but because you stopped blocking what was always coming. Let me ask you something. Have you ever been waiting for a message, checking your phone every few minutes, heart racing, trying to seem chill while inside you're spiraling, and then the moment you finally exhale, give up, throw your phone across the room, walk away, ding, there it is. The message arrives, not because of punishment or reward, but because your signal softened, your frequency unhooked from lack. You became magnetic without even knowing it. That's not a coincidence, that's coherence. That's you tuning back into the quantum truth. Energy first, evidence follows, but if you're gripping, doubting, controlling, your field gets foggy, your nervous system tightens, your frequency fragments, and life, which is always responding to your coherence, holds off, not out of cruelty, but clarity. The quantum shift is not a technique, it's a return, a remembering of who you are beneath the fear, beneath the proving, beneath the chasing. It's the moment you choose to live as if it's already done, not pretending, not bypassing, but embodying the knowing so deeply that reality has no choice but to match. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you allow yourself to become. The one shift that changes everything is the one that says, I'm no longer waiting to feel whole. I decide to be now. So the question isn't, how do I make it happen? The real question is, can I become the version of me who no longer needs it to happen to feel worthy, safe, or free? When you do that, reality rearranges itself. I used to think the universe responded to effort, that if I tried hard enough, visualized long enough, aligned my words just right, reality would bend. But I didn't understand coherence. I didn't realize that underneath my rituals was a subtle signal of fear, of urgency, of needing something outside me to change before I could relax, before I could feel love. And that signal, the one vibrating louder than all my intentions, was the very thing holding it all back. Because the quantum doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your being, to the state of your nervous system, to the quiet hum of your emotional baseline. Are you vibrating from trust or tension, from safety or survival, from openness or defense? That's the frequency that tells the field what to reflect. Not your affirmations, not your vision board, but your embodiment. Here's the paradox. You can want something with all your heart and still not allow it, because a part of you doesn't feel safe having it. A part of you has wired lack so deeply that abundance feels like a threat. A part of you is addicted to waiting, to proving, to earning. So when love tries to come, you brace. When opportunity knocks, you analyze. When flow whispers, you grip. Not because you're broken, but because your system was trained to survive, not to receive. That's the missed shift. We keep trying to think our way into alignment, But alignment is felt. It's in the breath, in the unclenching of your jaw, in the moment your heart softens and your belly loosens and you stop needing life to prove anything to you. That's when your field starts to sing. That's when the quantum listens, not because you forced it, but because you remembered. Remembered that presence is the portal, that it's not the thing you're trying to manifest that will set you free. It's the freedom in your being that magnetizes the thing. Not more doing, more remembering, not with control, but with coherence. Imagine this: two people walking into a room. One is gripping their desire like a lifeline, scanning, performing, needing others to validate them. The other is anchored, soft, radiating a quiet certainty that doesn't beg, doesn't push. They're not waiting. They're already there. Which one shifts the room? Which one do you feel drawn to? The second person isn't lucky. They're aligned. Their frequency isn't leaking. They've made the shift from wanting to being, and life responds. This is what you've been missing, not because you're wrong or failing, but because you've been trying to become magnetic while running on the fuel of lack. Trying to create flow while stuck in freeze. Trying to embody abundance while your body is bracing for loss. The shift is gentle. It's subtle. It's not another step in your morning routine. It's the moment you stop chasing and start receiving. The moment you drop into your body, feel the breath and ask, what would it feel like to already be the version of me who has it? Not think it. Feel it. Live it. Move from it. Because the quantum doesn't care about your timeline. It mirrors your signal. And your signal shifts the moment your safety does. The moment you stop outsourcing your peace to a future condition. The moment you decide to be now. The irony? The moment you no longer need it to come is the moment it finally does. Because you're not emitting lack anymore. You're not vibrating almost. You've become it. And reality has no choice but to reflect your coherence. There was a day I'll never forget. I wasn't doing anything profound, just walking home, the sky soft with sunset, and something in me let go. No fireworks, no dramatic realization, just an exhale that reached deeper than usual, a quiet click. I wasn't trying to manifest. I wasn't asking for signs. I wasn't in lack or longing. I was simply here, present, soft, open. And in that space, something shifted, not outside me, inside. The pressure disappeared. The ache for proof dissolved. And without effort, I could feel it. The frequency of the life I thought I needed to chase was already here. The quantum field responds to that. Not to hope, not to strain, but to embodied knowing. That's when manifestations become inevitable. Not because you earned them, but because you matched them. It's like tuning a radio. You don't scream at the static. You don't argue with the noise. You turn the dial gently, subtly, until the station clicks in. Your life is the same. The static is just misalignment, those tiny contradictions between what you say you want and what you're still embodying. Between your words and your nervous system. Between your thoughts and your felt frequency. The shift isn't about doing more. It's about clearing the interference, relaxing the resistance, letting your body feel safe with what you desire. Most people try to manifest from a place of not enough yet, but that's a signal of separation. And the field echoes it, not with punishment, but with precision. So the work becomes this: regulate your nervous system until it feels safe to receive. Create the inner conditions that match your outer desires, not just in thought but in tone, in energy, in emotion. Become the version of you who has no question it's coming, because you've already felt it in your bones. That's when the timelines fold. That's when things happen suddenly. But it was never sudden, it was quantum. Can you feel the difference between reaching and remembering, between urgency and inevitability? One says, I need it to be okay. The other says, I am okay and so it comes. One creates distortion, the other creates coherence. Coherence is alignment between your heart, your mind, and your nervous system. It's when your frequency holds steady, even when life looks uncertain. When your inner state no longer fluctuates based on outer appearances, that's magnetic. That's when you're no longer asking, when will it show up? But rather, who am I becoming now that I know it's already mine? Here's a truth that changed me. You don't become a match for your desires by chasing them. You become a match by softening into them, feeling the aliveness of them as if they're already here. Not in fantasy, in frequency, not in escape, in embodiment. Try it now. Imagine something you've been wanting, deeply, not from desperation, but from the heart. And then, instead of reaching, ask your body, what would it feel like if this were already real? What part of me tenses when I imagine receiving it? What would it feel like to relax there? That's the work. That's the shift. It's not sexy, it's not loud, but it's the axis around which everything turns, because when your inner world stabilizes in the energy of already having, your outer world bends to match, not because you pushed, but because you became. There's something sacred that happens when you stop performing for your desires, when you stop auditioning for the future, when you no longer contort yourself to become worthy of what you already are. That's when the energy returns. That's when the field begins to organize around your truth, because finally you've stopped leaking your power into waiting. Waiting is not neutral. Waiting is a signal. It says, it's not here yet. I'm not it yet. And the universe, ever precise, responds not to your longing, but to your location. And if your emotional GPS is set to almost, life will echo that almost back, again and again. That's why it hurts. That's why it feels like you're doing everything right, but nothing's clicking. Because you're still trying to manage manifestation from your mind, when what it's asking for is your embodiment. You can't think your way into a new timeline. You feel your way there. You regulate into it. You embody the version of you that doesn't hustle for trust, who is trust, who no longer negotiates with doubt, who walks with the calm certainty of one who remembers, if I can feel it, it's already real. Let's break that down. You've probably had moments, tiny but unmistakable, where something clicked. A stranger says the exact words you needed. A song plays at the perfect moment. A delay turns into a blessing. Those weren't random. That was resonance. That was life reflecting your signal when it briefly, beautifully harmonized. Now imagine holding that coherence longer, not just in fleeting bursts, but as your baseline, not because everything is perfect, but because you are anchored, because your inner landscape no longer depends on outer validation to stabilize. This is where the real shift lives, not in another manifestation hack, but in nervous system safety, in emotional integration, in becoming the frequency before the form. That's when the field can finally respond clearly, not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. Think about a river. You don't control its current. You become still enough to enter its flow. Manifestation is no different. The more you fight, the more you float against the truth. The more you soften, the more the current carries you. So what if, instead of asking how to get what you want, you asked, how do I become the space where this already lives? That question changes the game. It moves you out of lack and into leadership. It reminds your body, we are not waiting anymore. We are choosing to feel it now. You don't have to fake it. You don't have to pretend everything's okay. You just have to find one breath, one moment of inner steadiness, one pause where you feel, truly feel, what it would be like to no longer need proof. That moment ripples. Your frequency isn't built by force. It's built by returning, again and again, returning to the body, returning to trust, returning to the now, not as a compromise, but as a choice. That's power. That's presence. And presence is what the quantum understands. You are not behind. You are not broken. You're just remembering. You're tuning. And the shift you've been missing isn't out there. It's the quiet decision to stop vibrating, not yet, and start vibrating, I already am. It's wild, isn't it? How deeply we've been trained to believe that desire is something to chase, that if we just do more, heal faster, think better, act right, we'll finally unlock the door. But quantum creation isn't a door you force open. It's a frequency you become. And the irony is, the more you chase, the more you signal separation. The more you grip, the more you tell life, I don't trust this. And the field mirrors not your words, but your trust. This is the paradox that unravels everything. You don't manifest by proving you're ready. You manifest by remembering you already are, not because you've perfected yourself, but because the version of you that has the life you want doesn't operate from lack, doesn't breathe from fear, doesn't wait to feel safe. They already are. And when you choose to feel as they would feel now, you collapse the distance. This is what embodiment does. It's not a performance, it's not pretending. It's the quiet decision to live from the reality you're calling in, rather than constantly reacting to the one you're leaving behind. It's the nervous system shift from fight or flight to, I'm okay right now. That shift changes everything, because it sends a new signal, one the quantum can respond to, one that says, there's nothing missing here. We're no longer searching, we're arriving. It's like flipping a switch. You're no longer asking for a sign. You become the sign. You're no longer begging for a breakthrough. You become the breakthrough. You don't wait for the message, you become the resonance that calls it in, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. Clarity is power in the quantum field, and clarity isn't mental, it's emotional, it's embodied, it's felt. You can say 1,000 affirmations a day, but if your body is vibrating fear, that's the message that lands. But the moment you soothe that fear, not by pushing it away, but by breathing with it, staying with it, that's when your field shifts. That's the one quantum shift most people miss, because it doesn't look like effort. It looks like stillness. It looks like relaxing the grip. It looks like silence where there used to be striving. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow, and instead of strategizing your manifestations, you ask, what would it feel like to be so deeply rooted in trust that I no longer need to ask? What would that version of you move like, breathe like, speak like? What decisions would they make? How would they hold their desires, not as bargaining chips, but as sacred extensions of their essence? This is how we collapse time, not by speeding up, by dropping in, by choosing presence over panic, feeling over forcing, trust over tension. You don't have to fix your life to match your vision, you just have to feel your vision deeply enough that your life can no longer deny it. That's not delusion, that's design, that's quantum architecture. The version of you who already has it isn't trying to believe, they're being. They're resting in a frequency so clear, the universe has no choice but to reflect it, because in that frequency, there's no interference, only coherence. And coherence creates reality. There's a softness in coherence that doesn't scream, it doesn't strive, it hums, it pulses, it speaks in the language of inevitability. And when you start to live from that place, not just in your mind, but in your nervous system, you begin to see how unnecessary the struggle ever was. It's not your desire that's been too big, it's the pressure you've been carrying around it that's been too loud. Pressure distorts your signal, it clouds your field. It creates static between you and the quantum mirror that's trying, always, to reflect back your coherence. This is why you can do all the right things and still feel stuck, because deep down, your signal says, it's not safe to have this yet. I don't fully trust, I'm still bracing. And the field with perfect neutrality says, okay. But what happens when you stop bracing? When you stop broadcasting the frequency of when will it happen and instead relax into the rhythm of it already is? That's when you collapse the timeline, not by rushing through it, but by stepping out of time altogether, into being. This shift is quiet, it's internal, it's often invisible, but it's the most magnetic move you'll ever make, because life doesn't respond to your desperation, it responds to your decision. And when you decide to live as though it's already yours, not out of fantasy but out of felt reality, everything changes. This isn't about faking confidence, it's about cultivating coherence, about regulating your system until it no longer panics in the presence of your potential, until your dreams don't feel like fantasies, but familiar frequencies, until your body says, oh, this is home. So what does that actually look like? It looks like choosing peace before proof. It looks like breathing through the urge to check, to push, to demand. It looks like staying anchored, even when nothing outside has shifted, yet. Because you know that the moment you stabilize your frequency, reality will rise to meet you. Not out of hope, out of harmony. You become the match, not through effort, through embodiment. Embodiment is not an intellectual exercise, it's visceral. It's the shift from thinking abundance to feeling it in your cells. From talking about love to becoming its living invitation, from visualizing your dream life to walking like someone who already lives inside it. And when you do, the signs don't just appear, they accelerate. People respond differently. Synchronicities increase, time bends, not because you finally did enough, but because you finally became enough to receive. And you were always enough. You just stopped vibrating, not yet. That's the quantum shift. The one you've been missing while searching for bigger methods. Better steps, clearer signs. The shift isn't out there. It's in the moment you choose to stop outsourcing your energy to a future moment and instead inhabit the energy now. So let me ask you, what would change if you stopped waiting to become the version of you who has it and simply started being them now? What would it feel like to release the tension of becoming and land in the truth of already being? Feel that. Breathe that. Let your body believe it before your mind catches up. That's the signal that changes everything. You don't have to fix every belief. You don't have to heal every wound. You don't have to force your way into alignment. You just have to create enough inner safety for your system to stop fighting your becoming. enough softness for the signal to come through clean, because manifestation is not about perfection, it's about permission. And the moment you permit yourself to feel worthy now, your world begins to rearrange. This is the most radical thing you can do in a culture obsessed with effort, to stop, to breathe, to feel your enoughness before anything changes, not as a tactic, as a truth. And when you live from that truth, the field can finally stabilize around your frequency instead of your fear. Your reality is a living echo of your coherence, not of what you want, but of what you're vibrating consistently. That's why you felt those mysterious moments where something shows up without warning, because your energy aligned, if only for a moment, and that alignment was enough to summon the reflection. So what happens when alignment is no longer a rare flicker, but a practiced state? When presence is no longer the exception, but your baseline, everything happens, not because you finally cracked the code, but because you stopped distorting the signal. Most people think they need to do more to manifest, but the truth is most people need to feel more, to slow down, to feel what they're running from, to meet the edges of their desire and ask, why do I still believe this can't be mine? And then breathe there, stay there, until the frequency shifts, because the shift is always available, right now, not tomorrow, not when the bank account updates or the love arrives or the breakthrough happens. Now, the quantum doesn't run on time, it runs on truth. And truth is timeless. So what if you stopped asking her, how long will it take, Mane, and instead asked, how long am I willing to wait to feel this free? And then chose to feel it now. That's not bypassing. That's embodiment. That's emotional sovereignty. That's becoming the space that can hold what you're calling in, because the moment you no longer need the manifestation to complete you, you've already become it. And when you become it, you draw it in. Not like a magnet chasing metal, but like a tuning fork resonating with what was always meant for you. No more gripping, no more managing, no more trying to trick the field with surface-level rituals while your body still screams lack. Just presence, just breath, just the gentle, grounded decision to feel as if it's already here and to let that be enough. You've never needed more power. You've only needed more permission. And that permission, it's yours to give. Let it land now, not as a concept, but as a felt knowing deep in your chest. You are not separate from what you seek. You never were. You are made of the same quantum fabric as the dream you've been chasing. The distance was never in the universe. It was in the vibration of waiting, of hoping, of postponing your wholeness until reality caught up. But reality doesn't lead, it follows. And it's been listening carefully, precisely, to the signal of your state. So let yourself shift, not later, now. Let your shoulders drop. Let your breath deepen. Let your inner world begin to mirror the life you've been calling in. Not by wishing for it, but by becoming it. This is the one quantum shift that changes everything. The decision to be now what you thought you needed to become. The choice to feel now what you thought you needed to achieve. The realization that the version of you who lives the life you desire feels free before the evidence arrives. Not because they're delusional, but because they've remembered that freedom is a frequency, not a reward. And when you live from that frequency, things happen fast. Not because you rushed, but because you released. You stopped trying to force life into alignment and instead became aligned yourself. That's when life catches up. That's when the quantum bends. Not because you won, but because you became. The field doesn't reward striving. It reflects coherence, and coherence comes not from effort, but from inner attunement, from regulating your energy back to your essence, from embodying the safety, the worthiness, the joy of the thing now, before it arrives, so that when it does, it doesn't change you, it simply finds you, because that's the truth. Your desires aren't destinations, they're mirrors, invitations, echoes of the you that already exists in a timeline waiting to be chosen. So let this be your invitation, not to chase, but to choose, not to wait, but to walk as if it's already done, not with force, but with frequency, not from effort, from essence, not more doing, more remembering. You don't need to become worthy, you need to become still enough to feel the frequency underneath the noise, still enough to remember that the power was never in the method. It was in the moment you stopped waiting and started being. Right now, as you listen, you can shift, you can soften, you can realign, not by changing your thoughts, but by feeling the truth that was always here. You are the manifestation, you are the match, you are the shift, and when you live from that truth, the field has no choice but to rise and reflect it.